Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. Here for week 16 of the NFL slate. Got 8 picks for you. Got back the return, not of the MAC, but the Thursday night pick, which we were doing a lot early on in the season and kind of straight away from Sunday night game, one of the Christmas Day games. There are 2 Saturday games and 2 other Monday games. And if you're interested in what the model thinks about those, you can obviously join us over on Dub Club. Recap, breaking this into 2 slides here. Did not do well on the show last week, Jake. We went 2-5. We still have a 5.5% ROI on the show. And it's not exactly how I've drawn it up specifically, but the A grade sides plus 2.3 units by going 3-2. How did we do that? Because we had some dogs that won outright for us, and we just missed Chicago. I mean, of the number of ways Chicago could have won, I mean, the fact that the ball hits the chest of the dude in the end zone for the win, I mean, that's right there, like would have been a fantastic plus whatever we got, plus 150 for us. So, but a 24% are on the 8 grade sides, and you can again get those over on Dub Club. If you've been following these picks, you're making money. And if you're with us on Dub Club, you're making even more money, a lot of money. Overall, just sides and totals, the sides that we recommended and the totals we've recommended on the season. This is the B grades we're doing on show. These are plays of the day, totals of the day, everything, the whole package of sides and totals we've recommended across all platforms. Sides, ROI, 9.9% ROI, totals, 8.5% ROI. Not every week can be a winner. Last week was just kind of so-so, unfortunately, but that's okay. The overall season's been great, and we know we're going to have some more good weeks coming. Never know what's going to happen on day-to-day. But Jake, felt like we had the right reads, and I think one of the things that indicated that even more to me is I also gave out 3 official teaser picks to Dub Club, and all 3 of those won as well. Yeah. So the teasers helped us, and you got those if you're with us on Dub Club. And if you're interested in joining us and haven't yet, $10 off your first month using the promo code there on the screen. Or if you're with us on an audio-only platform, the link in the show description. If you're with us on YouTube, that QR code, you can scan that, or you can click the link in the show description for $10 off your first month. A holiday special here. This will run through the end of the year, and then prices jump January 1st. So you want to be in before then. You might as well get in now with college football stuff. We're going to do a college football show with Cousin Jared later in the week. I don't know how many more we're going to do because my end of the year is about to get really wild. So all the college football stuff will be over on Dub Club, all the college basketball stuff, all the NFL stuff, everything will be over there. So you want to be there if you aren't already. If nothing else, for the A-grade NFL sides can pay for its subscription right there. And the teasers that we've been talking about that are just rocking and rolling. And of the teasers that I gave out on Dub Club, that doesn't even include the Fade the Chiefs under teaser, which I've been talking a lot about on this show. So we've been just crushing the teasers here as of late, and the A-grade sides. It's been just so good with the NFL. Jake, I was telling Mrs. Professor that the NFL has become the sport I look forward to the most, the easiest. I understand why everybody bets the NFL because it's so easy to make money off of. She laughed at me. I don't know. I think you've mentioned this before on show too, that and I was this way. Like, I felt like I could never make money in the NFL before I built this model. I felt like I was terrible at it. I feel like I just couldn't figure it out. And I was like, why do people bet this dumb sport? Every game comes down to the end of the 4th quarter. Who the heck knows? And that's kind of like the models, I guess, picking up on that. And like, that's great. Here's how we take advantage of that. You know, it's just crazy to me how good this NFL season has been.
Yeah, before we had this model, I was just kind of throwing darts and trying to see like it got to the point where I would rarely bet the NFL, and I was just more college football and college basketball guy. And then now you've made so much money here. I'm like, I'm so sad that this is coming to an end. I don't want it to, because I know the playoffs get weird. But man, I'm just happy. It's been so much fun.
It's been great. We're going to start off here with New Orleans and Los Angeles on Thursday. And Jake, we'll try to do a good job of explaining what the model's seeing and why it likes certain things. in each pick. It's hopefully the benefit of the show for everybody, especially if you're already with us on Dub Club. You already know the A grade sides are just where it's at, and you should just be rocking and rolling with those. And then hopefully helping try to supplement that with some other picks that'll work for you as well. And one of the themes we often talk about is, you're not as bad as you looked at your worst, you're not as good as you looked at your best, right? Bounce back spots. And we'll talk about a lot of that this week in this show. Jake, this one to me isn't any of those. It is the classic case of, just like we had with Chicago last week, and it just missed. It is, who the heck knows what's going to happen in this game? Give me plus odds. Plus 180 is just an insane price for the Saints team, who Silent is number 9, has the Rams number 10. Both these teams are 7-7. Do I think either one of these teams are that good? No. We've been talking about it for weeks now in the NFL, that like teams like 7 through 15 are all like, I don't know. They're all very okay. They're not bad. The things aren't bad. Their offense is meh. The defense is good. The Rams have the opposite problem, right? Their defense isn't very good at all, but the offense is good, especially, Williams has come in and been just a revelation for them. Running back, and of course, Puka Nacua, everyone's talking about him, and obviously that the Cooper Cup guy. I think that's how you say his name. If anyone's ever heard of him, right, he's obviously pretty good. It's strength on strength. The Rams have the ball. It's kind of met on met when the Saints have the ball. So I don't think Saints are slightly better on the road. You're not giving the Rams much of a home field advantage here. They're one of the teams that gets almost nothing. The visiting team tends to have more fans there than they do. That matters. The only thing that's happening here is travel. But otherwise, this is a coin toss game. Saints at plus 180 is way too good to pass up. Jake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, what I really like here is with what I think sideline scene is, you're looking at what you have ranked as around the 16th best offense going against a very weak, or not, maybe not very weak, but weaker Rams defense. And it's a much bigger advantage than what the Rams are going to have to see with the Saints defense, who's ranking the same. I don't know, how does that pair out in the model? Is the offense better, or is the defense better when they're ranked the same?
The offense has a slight edge at the same rank in the NFL. The offense is more important. It's such a quarterback-driven league. So, that's kind of, and I think it's a great point. And it's always fun to look under the hood, right? That's the benefit of the show, is we can dive into these topics. If you look at the ratings on screen, if you're with us on YouTube, you might think that the edge, that it's even Rams offense versus Saints defense, and that it's big edge Saints offense versus Rams defense. But it's kind of like college basketball. We talk about the better offenses are better than the bad defenses are, much less of an extent. But the Rams will still have a slight edge on offense. It's just that they will have a smaller edge than the Saints will have, just because the Rams defense is so bad.
Yeah, and that's what I think the model's saying. That's what I like. That's why I like playing the Saints here. I also think they can kind of control the game, and I think both teams are going to want to keep the ball on the ground more than they're going to want it in the air. So I think that provides a little more variability, and why I like having the plus odds here.
Absolutely. Again, it's the plus odds. This big of plus odds is just crazy. For again, that should be somewhere around a coin toss. And we also talk about all models are wrong. Some models are useful. Not to say this is an exact coin toss, but it's relatively close to that. So plus 180 here is just incredible value for us Thursday night. Again, skipping Saturday games, moving to Sunday. We had an A grade play on the Colts on Saturday, who got it done for us. They will travel to Atlanta, who has benched Desmond Ridder now for the second time this season. So that's good. It's
a great state of your franchise.
Exactly what you want to be doing with your quote unquote quarterback of the future. I don't know. Atlanta's played well at home, and sideline gives him a 54% chance. Taylor Heinicke's an upgrade over Desmond Ridder. Not that Taylor Heinicke's good. It's that Desmond Ridder was just so bad. I mean, it's all there is to it. I'm sure he's a nice guy. We always talk about, right, infinitely better athlete than I could ever dream of being. So I'm not trying to throw shade at the guy. It's just, unfortunately for him, is he's in a profession where we are comparing him to, 30 other, whatever 25 or whatever really amazingly good people at their job, and unfortunately he's doesn't compare with them. I mean, that's not like it's the end of the world. It's just unfortunate for him. It's a big upgrade when they bench him, and that kind of makes this game pretty coin tossy, leaning Atlanta's way because of the home field edge. Jake, this was a B grade right around the time we were finding out that Ridder was being benched. It was kind of like with Ridder in, it was a C grade. And then, oh, Ritter's not going to play. It's going to be Heineke, and it was a B grade. It didn't take that long for it to get bet towards Atlanta, drop it right back to a C grade, which is what often happens where whatever the edge that that sideline has on a game before an injury or before bench news or whatever tends to be about the same news after the market adjusts. We tend to see things mostly the same. Every once in a while, it's a little bit different, and that's kind of what happened here. We're back to a C grade. I still think the Falcons are worth a play here. Neither one of these teams is great. Games in Atlanta, I don't know. Just give me the home team, right?
Yeah, Atlanta at home is a lot easier to back than Atlanta anywhere else.
Yeah,
and Indy is getting beat up right now. I mean, that hit on Pittman was that was rough, and who knows if he's going to be playing. So that's down, possibly down one receiver, and then Isaiah McKenzie gets suspended. So now you're down two receivers. So you've got Josh Downs and Alec Pierce, a rookie and a second-year guy who aren't superstars for a career backup quarterback to be thrown to. And then you've got
a career backup quarterback who has at times this year been solid and at times just – and it's like every game he has just a couple of throws that are just recklessly crazy. And, you know, if those land in the defense's hands, it can really hurt you on offense. And he seems to do that a couple times a game, you know?
And that's why he's the backup, right? Like he's got the talent and everything, and he just – which I'm not knocking him. I mean, I think he's really good. And he's done incredible this year, and he deserves to get paid a lot more than probably what he's getting paid for how well he's done for the Colts. But then Zach Moss gets hurt, and so and you've got Jonathan Taylor hurt.
Taylor's also
like there's rumors he might come back, but there's also rumors that thumb is a bigger issue and holding on the ball than what anybody's saying. So who knows? Like I think that if both teams fully healthy going against each other, I'd take the Colts. But right now, with the way the Colts lineup is, Atlanta at home, I'm taking them.
And that's the benefit to being on Dub Club is I will post another update, one or two, depending on the week, updates later in the week as we get closer to the games where we learn more about these players' status. You talked about a couple of the Colts, your Pittman specifically, and you know what the running back situation is. Right, when we know a little bit more, and the projections sometimes change. Sometimes they move a tenth of a point, and it's literally rounding error. But other times it can change a lot. The Texans is a great example of that. We were still on the Texans, still like the Texans. It just liked them a lot less because it seemed like when we talked about the Texans a week ago, it was like they got a bunch of guys who were hurt, but like half of them will probably play, half of them won't, and they're still a good team. And then it got down to the game time. It was like, oh no, like none of them are going to play, and that was in the update. It changed a lot. None of them. Yeah, all of them were out basically. And we were still like, okay, we still think they got a chance, but it was a little bit different than we thought earlier in the week, right? So that's the benefit of being on Dub Club is you get that update based off the injury information. And so the idea is that it's possible that even becomes more, there were more Falcons, like the Falcons a little bit more as the week goes on. Maybe not. We'll see. Right now at minus 115, I've played this as a secret. I want a little bit on it. I want to go ahead and lock this in, and maybe later on we add a little bit more to it if we get better. If not, we let it ride. But the Falcons have been pretty decent at home. They really struggled off. The defense is pretty solid, as you can see there, according to sideline rank number 12. It's been what's held them together has been that defense. But the offense, according to the model, jumps up to number 24 with Heineke. With Ridder, it's closer to 30. But again, having a meh quarterback is an upgrade. We know they have a ton of talent there. And so Atlanta at home, 54% likely to win, makes minus 115 worthy of a C grade pick. Worth being on your card. Not going to be the most heavy game we're invested in. That would be, or one of the heavy games we're going to be invested in, Washington and the New York Jets. Jake, this is going to be terrible, terrible football when the Jets have the ball. dead last on offense. I assume that Zach Wilson will be playing quarterback, but it's like somewhere in the 50 to 70% range. That's what the model has now. Trevor Siemian is the backup, who I guess is still around. Aaron Rodgers, it sounds like what they're saying. The coach is like, oh, he might be blah, 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 but it's also like, there's no way he's playing, right? Like, I don't understand this talk, like why the coach is saying this. They've been eliminated from playoff contention. There is just no reason for him to be out there, but they're still like, oh, he might be medically cleared to play. I'm like, he might be medically cleared to play, but like, I don't see why he'd be out there. So we're probably with Zach Wilson or Trevor Siemian. Either way, it's not good. And Washington's defense, dead last. I mean, it is going to be, what's the old, immovable force, unstoppable, whatever meets, it's the opposite of that, right? The thing that can't move versus the thing that can't stop anything. Here's the difference in this game, is that Washington's offense is okay. It's not great. It's okay. The Jets defense is still really good. Incredible job by them all season. Silent still has a number 4. Obviously, they gave up some points to the Dolphins. I don't really think that's the end of the world. A lot of teams have given up points to the Dolphins. Just a massive credit to this Jets defense. Everybody that's a part of that. I mean, hats off to you. Given the offense and how bad it's been, a lot of teams we've seen, like the Panthers, we've talked about a lot, where their defensive rating just slips because they're constantly out on the field, and that allows them to make mistakes because the situation the offense puts them in. The Jets are in the same boat, but they aren't making those mistakes. I mean, they are the real deal at home. Sideline says they win 71% of the time. The Jets are favored, and we are laying it with an A grade. Jake, it feels a little bit like the end of the world to back the Jets at -155 with an A grade. I don't really know what's happening, but you know what? I played it, and I'm moving on with life, and it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely uncomfortable, but sometimes those are the best plays, because what's going on? Like Washington, Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett. I mean, they're almost in the same quarterback situation. Maybe not as bad, but as the Jets are. And
Jacoby Brissett's actually not bad. I'm a little surprised that he didn't get traded somewhere, because there are a lot of teams. He'd have been a pretty big upgrade for a lot of teams, including the Jets.
Yeah, but like as we were talking about before, the offenses have a little slight edge over the defenses. So I don't see where Washington, like as bad as the Jets are, I think they'll still be able to score, because they do have talent with Bryce Hall, who can break one off, and every once in a while, one of the 7 quarterbacks or whatever they're throwing out there, whoever it is happens to be, gets the ball to Garrett Wilson enough that they move the ball. I think those accidents will happen a lot more than the accidents of Washington scoring against this Jets defense, who is absolutely solid from top to bottom, and can score on their own, especially when they're going. There's a good chance that whoever's quarterbacking for Washington ends up on their back a lot and dropping the ball in the short field, and maybe we win 9-0 with 3 field goals. I don't know, but that just seems like a very Iowa game to bet from college football. It just seems like, but the defense is so good, we trust the special teams to win the game for us, kind of thing. I don't know. It's not comfortable, but it's one I'm definitely playing.
Washington came back against the Rams, and they fought hard. Credit to them for that. But the Rams were up 28-7 in the fourth quarter, and that's where we talk about Washington. They've just really the last several weeks fallen off a cliff. Of the model is just like, okay, we're bad, we're going to downgrade you. Okay, you underperform that. Okay, we're going to downgrade you. Okay, you keep underperforming that, we're going to downgrade. It keeps happening. And here's the thing: is the model didn't even downgrade them last week based off the final score, which is again only just a small part of it. But they didn't cover. Of course, we had an A-grade play on the Rams, and that one laying the 6.5. But then on top of that, I think it was much worse than the score indicated. 28-7 to the Rams, only scoring 7 against the Rams, like in real time. How are you going to score on this Jets defense, right? And so anything can happen in football, right? Weird things have happened, but we've been kind of fading the Jets a lot lately. And now that it's flipping its backing them, it's really just trying to tell you how much the model dislikes Washington. And they can't backdoor themselves. They didn't backdoor cover that game. They didn't backdoor cover the Dolphins. They didn't backdoor cover the Cowboys. And they can't backdoor cover this because we're not even laying points, right? They'd have to win. And Washington has not been competitive in like a month at this point. And so who knows what will happen in one game. The Jets obviously have their issues on offense, but the whole point of having the model is to kind of say, where is this price messed up? And in this case, minus 155 is way too short. So we're going to be on the favorite here. So I always say not afraid to play a bigger favorite, not afraid to play a bigger dog. We will play a little bit of everything, including totals. Detroit at Minnesota. Detroit's got a really good offense. That defensive rating continues to plummet for Detroit. And we said it from the start of the year, it's gotten more extreme than we really thought. At the start of the season, we thought Detroit would be potentially a frisky team, maybe a playoff team. Biggest question with them was going to be how good their defense would be. And it turns out the offense was so good that it didn't even matter. And they're absolutely a playoff team because of that offense. What's going to hold them back is that defense just looks worse and worse. I'm not sure exactly how much is injuries, but it's just not going well for them on the defensive side of the ball. But it's an offensive-driven league, so I'm not sure how much of it's a problem in the long term for them for their success. They're favored against Minnesota. They should be favored against Minnesota. But what we're banking on here is a lot of points. Model says on average 48. We're going to go over 46.5. It's not the biggest model edge. But what I like about this is that pace of both of these teams, that both these teams play a little bit faster. Not the biggest deal in the NFL. But when we guarantee not a slow pace, not a, Patriots, whatever they're trying to do, slow games down type pace, you got a Detroit team that passes the ball a lot, a Minnesota team that is just kind of so-so. You got the roof there, so you don't have any weather concerns on the fast turf. This game just sets up to have a decent number of points. And what the model's telling us is that 47 and 48 are your two key numbers in the upper 40s. And we get the wins on both of those. I think if you were to take all the possible outcomes of this game and you take out 47 and 48, I think it's pretty 50-50 as to whether it's less than 47 or more than 48. But at 46.5, we get the win on both of those. So we're taking a 50-50 outcome. We sprinkle in two wins on both of those key numbers on that key kind of combo of numbers. And that's where I think there's value on this number. This is one of those where I wouldn't play it over 48.5, but at 46.5, I think it's worth an investment, Jake. I talked you into this one, so I haven't even heard what you think about it. Why was I able to talk to you? What do you like about this overplay?
Look, I like Detroit's offense. They are very, very good. And really, Goff has found a home. Like he never saw this version of Goff in LA.
And I'm not sure we saw it even until this season. This season has been incredible for him. And I was skeptical. The model was skeptical of him to start the season, but hats off.
Yeah, and I mean, Laporta survived Iowa's offense and still remembered how to play after when he got to the NFL. That he's been huge. Jahmyr Gibbs just gets better and better and better as the year goes around.
Yeah.
I know Minnesota's got a decent defense, but I don't think they've got enough here to really slow down and shut down Detroit like they're going to need.
It's hard to slow that team down. I mean, Denver's defense have been playing a little bit better of late, and they didn't stand a chance slowing them down. Yeah,
and you know what? They're going to have to play a little bit with some pace. They're going to have to score a little bit to stay in this game. I mean, they've got pretty much their full weapons. I don't think Madison, I don't know that I don't know that there's much difference between him and Chandler at the running back position. So I don't think it matters one way or the other. But you've got Jefferson, Hawkinson, and Addison there to throw to, whether it's Mullins or Dobbs or whoever happens to be throwing at that time. And Detroit's defense is a great one for those guys to figure things out because they're not stopping you whatsoever. So I think we're going to get close to that 50 points in this game, and that's well over this 46.5.
Yep, absolutely. All about the number for this one. To the late slot, Jacksonville at Tampa Bay. Jake, my personal opinion is every NFL team should have a rival that you play every year, and obviously this would be one of those. I just wish these teams would play every year, just the Battle of Florida. I love when this stuff happens. Of course, you got to get Miami in there too, but whatever. The point is I love it when teams like this get to play because I think it's fun. And obviously, you know, not that maybe there are more fun fan bases with rivalries, but I like stuff like this. I feel like we never see this game, and the colors of the jerseys are nice. Right? This should be a fun game with regards to that. Otherwise, though, two kind of run-of-the-mill teams. Tampa Bay's playing well as of late. Model thinks they're a pretty well-balanced team. Jacksonville go in the wrong direction, and you're really starting to see the version of Jacksonville that Sideline thought existed all along. They played really well to start the season, but the model never fully came around to this Jacksonville team, and there were people putting them in the Super Bowl saying how great they were going to be, and Sideline the whole time was kind of like, I'm not sold, and that's where it is now. They're still decent. We've never said they're not decent, but they have some flaws. They've had some lucky wins. Now they've had some close losses. It's kind of balanced out, and you're seeing a team at this point kind of fighting for their playoff lives in the mess that is the AFC playoff. Of course, I guess both are a mess, just in very different ways at this point, which should make for a fun final few weeks of the season. These are two relatively even matched teams with the slight edge going to Tampa, and then Tampa's home. 62% chance to win according to the model. This is really just more of what we've said all season, is that Tampa's not bad. Jacksonville's probably not as good as the market thinks. This is a classic case where I was talking about what is the model saying. This is just a classic case of, you know, the model sticking to its guns and being right more times than not. Doesn't mean it's always right, but we've been fading Jacksonville. It's been working more lately as things have kind of come back to earth for them. And this Tampa team isn't that bad somehow, I guess.
I mean, everybody forgot they have two arguably Hall of Fame type receivers out there on the edges with Godwin and Evans. And right now, Jacksonville's defense is the entire issue here. They can't stop anybody. Lord, they made Browning and Flacco. Browning, who hasn't played in forever, and then Flacco off the streets. They both cleared 300 yards and multiple TDs. Like, that defense, what are you going to do with Baker Mayfield, who's been playing all year with this team, and it has Mike Evans and Chris Godwin out there, and a couple good and probably a better running back than they've seen too.
And has been playing pretty well. Like, I mean, Baker Mayfield's a guy that's been kind of up and down the last 5-ish years and been all over the map. But I mean, this season he's having a solid season. I mean, I think he's doing better than what most people would have thought after his last couple of years in the league. He's respectable.
Yeah, he's doing just enough where he's not everything for a team, and that's what he was in a bad situation in Cleveland. I think this version where he's not having to do everything. They've got a pretty decent defense behind him. He's got a good running back, two good receivers out there where he can just make the right plays most of the time, and they'll win a lot of these games. I mean, they're putting together this will be. They've won 3 in a row, and 2 of those have been on the road. So coming back home, I think will be really good for them. Jacksonville, it's just that defense. They can't stop anybody, it doesn't seem. And you're going against a better offense with probably better weapons and a better running back than what they've seen in the previous couple of games. And I mean, the Ravens put up 23 there and really had no desire they could have kept scoring, but they just didn't want to. So I don't see anywhere Jacksonville's got an advantage here.
When you think about Jacksonville's last game, and I think there's probably a little bit of value on this because of everyone watching them on Sunday Football, and they were the better team in that game at times. But I think that's the problem with Jacksonville, is that people are excited about them because when they look good, and they don't look good usually for the whole 60 minutes, or if they do, it's then they don't the next week, that sort of thing. It's hard for them to put it all together. And you saw there were times against Baltimore where they just looked completely lost. And even early on when they should have had the lead, or when you think about it was a little bit windy, and so maybe the wind affected those long field goals, but they were still settling for 50-yard field goals in the wind. Like, that's not great. And so the strength of this Jacksonville team, supposedly their offense, right, which is above average, couldn't get it done against a good Ravens defense. I'm not taking anything away from them, but couldn't really get it done for part of that game, really left them hanging, and then the defense couldn't get it done for part of the game. And that's, again, kind of what boils down to a mediocre team. And that's exactly what Tampa Bay is too. So that's why it's like, okay, we'll give you the home team at a price like this, because both these teams are very okay. Both of them have flaws. Both of them have upside. Both of them can look good any given week. Who knows what's going to happen on that? So the home team at this price makes sense. 4:25 p.m. Eastern, Arizona and Chicago. Speaking of bad defense, we've covered the worst defense of the league in Washington, second worst defense of the league, Arizona. I don't know. This game's also going to be ugly. Nobody's going to be watching this because everyone's going to have their eyes on Miami and Dallas at this time slot. So again, if you want to know what the model thinks about that, if you want to discuss that game, we'll talk about it over on the Discord chat. Sign up on Dub Club in that link in the show description there. It's got the coupon code as well. But while this game will not need your eyeballs, again, as we always say, you don't have to watch them to make the monies. We're going to back Chicago here. Sideline says they win 71% of the time. That makes -210 a B grade. Worth an investment, but we're not going to go too heavy on it. We're not going to risk a full 2 units even. We're actually going to risk about 1.7 units to win 0.8. So we're going to risk a little bit less than 2, and we're not going to win quite 1, but we think this is a solid play because this is one of those that wins almost 3 out of 4 times. And if we win 3 out of 4, we like the -210. Don't put this in every money line parlay you do, people, though, because again, we expect to win this 3 out of 4 times, which means we might end up with 1 of the 4 that we lose. None of these are locks. There's no such thing as locks as gambling. If you've been doing this any length of time, you know that's the case. So -210, smart, not an all-in pick though. But the Bears are the better team here at home. It's tough to not back them at this sort of price, right?
Yeah, yeah. Travel. Chicago's better team, and that really feels weird saying that they're better than anybody. But Arizona is whoa bad. Last week, Chicago had that game; they should have won. But you're looking at a defense. You're looking at a defense in Cleveland that's very top tier. They can really take advantage of what Justin Fields can't do well. That's not Arizona. They also hit a 51-yard touchdown out of nowhere, like there at the end, and then got the field goal they needed, obviously, to win the game. But I just those kinds of plays that flip this game, Arizona's not going to be able to make on defense. Chicago has the better what I would think was a better all-around offense when Fields is running the ball and doing well. I don't like the weapons that – I mean, McBride, is that the tight end for Arizona?
Mm-hmm.
It's looking good, but I just don't like the weapons that Kyler has. James Conner's fine, but his line doesn't help him out. Defense puts a lot of pressure on them to actually dominate a game, and that's just not what they have right now. I'm going to take Chicago at home all day here.
Yeah, this Arizona team has seemingly played, hard all year long from start to finish. They don't, they aren't quitting, right? And we see that in a lot of their games. But I think you're, starting to see on occasion here some of these games just how weak they can be. And obviously they had that win against Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago. The weather in that game was crazy. They had that goal line stop that basically swung like 14 points because then Arizona comes down and scores, right? That was also Pittsburgh who, and not to say the Bears can't have similar problems, right? So I know people are going to look at that, and I think it's why we're getting value on this, because I think people are going to look at this and say, hey, how's it any different than the Steelers game? Well, not that Fields is the most amazing quarterback, but I think he's mildly competent. And I'm not sure anything the Steelers are doing offensively is competent. And it's not about just the offensive coordinator, right? He was part of the problem, but the whole offense just really lacks talent. And I think you see with the Cardinals here, the week before that, the way they lost at home to the Rams just did not compete at all. Last week against the Niners, and then they scored early on and then just could not stop them at all. And obviously the Niners are a really good team, but when the sports books give you a ton of points and you still can't cover them, that tells you something, right? And that's what happened there, is that the sports books tried to account for the difference in quality and they still couldn't do it. And so I think we're getting value here because people are looking at this saying, yeah, this Cardinals team, they play hard and they beat the Steelers and they played well against the Texans and they beat the Falcons. And it's like, yeah, but like the Falcons, I mean, that was the Falcons on the road, and we talked about Desmond Ridder earlier, right? And you can talk about that, but then you also can't forget that they lost 27 to the Browns, right? So it's like they've had enough of these games where we kind of know what they are, which is competent on offense, largely because of McBride. I mean, that guy fuels their offense, it seems. But that defense just, I don't have any faith in it. And part of that is, again, when you allow like 27 to Cleveland or whatever, right? All the other things you talked about with it. That's concerning. Chicago's offense is good enough to score at home here, minus 210. Worth a pick on the Bears, which take us to Sunday night. New England at Denver. Jake, Denver's defense has played better here up until they face the gauntlet Lions offense. Sideline still isn't much of a believer in them. Still has them number 28, and obviously it knows that the Lions offense is really good. It's just, and part of it was those first 4 games. Part of it is the model thinks Denver's success with regards to holding teams down has come more from ball control and long offensive drives than defensive talent. And I think you saw that against the Lions when they couldn't get anything done offensively. And again, anything can happen in one game, right? If you play that game again, you expect Denver to do a little bit more offensively. But they couldn't control the ball, have those long drives. And so what happened was the Lions just went down and scored really quick, and it just wasn't up their alley, right?
Yeah.
And so I say all that to kind of indicate I'm not a believer in this Denver defense at all. The biggest thing has been pace. New England doesn't play with pace either, but that doesn't necessarily mean nobody will score because this Denver offense is still solid and this Denver defense isn't. New England struggled to score a lot lately, but for the most part, while their offense isn't good, the games that they've really struggled to score have been weather related or playing incredible defense related. They should score on Denver. We're going to go over 34 here. 34 is a relatively key number in the mid 30s, and Sideline projects 39. We're thinking it'll be lower than average, but maybe not quite to the extent that the sports books do. Jake, what are your thoughts?
Look, I think Zappy's given this New England offense a little bit more life. Part of that, also getting healthy. I mean, maybe Stevenson might be playing this one. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to wait till later in the week. But at the same time, I think a score looking like the Steelers game at the Steelers is something very, very possible here. Maybe not 21-18, but like something like that, where the winning team gets 3 touchdowns. I can see that happening easily because, I mean, the Broncos have scored under 20, maybe 4 times, and that's including last week where that game just got way out from them from what they wanted to do and how they want to do it. Like, there are a solid offense that when they can control with their ground game and Russell Wilson making a few plays here and there, they can really dominate a game. And I think that's what we're going to see because New England's not that good a team. Their offense isn't really going to do that much, but the defense will slow this game, get us below average. But I think 20 points from Denver, 21, 24 points out of Denver is what we're going to get. So we just need a couple touchdowns out of New England and we're fine.
The Broncos have gone, if I'm looking at this correctly, and I may be missing there, but I think the Broncos have gone under this number only 3 times this season. One of those was against the Chiefs in Denver in the cold where Mahomes had the flu. One of them was in Kansas City against Mahomes when it was like windy and wet. And again, as we talked about, the Chiefs have been a much less explosive offense and a pretty good defense this season. The other one was the Chargers, where they only got to 31. But I mean, the Broncos are, for the most part, going nowhere near this number. So when you look at this, you have to be thinking, yeah, I get that. This is the Patriots is the reason why this number is so low. But when you look at the Patriots, they had those 3 games in a row. One of them was in London, where they only had a game that was 10-6 against the Colts. Okay. I think Germany, I think every overseas game went under, right? And we were playing all those. We were like, just play them under. Like, none of these games have points, right? That's a different story. One was the Giants. Part of that was the quarterback situation. The Giants defense has been competent at times. One of them was the Chargers game. That game was a monsoon, right? So they had 3 games in a row. Absolutely. But And I'm not saying we should ignore those. We just want to hold them in one hand and consider the rest of the season, which is last week against the Chiefs, that game had 44. Against the Steelers, that game had 39. Against the Commanders, 37. Against the Dolphins, 48. You say, oh, the Dolphins are high scoring. Okay, sure, but I'm going to keep going. The Bills had 50-something. The Raiders, 38. The Saints got to 34. And the Patriots didn't even score, and it still would have pushed, right? So it's like the Patriots have had points despite the fact that their offense is bad and their defense is good. Absolutely. It's just in the NFL, like you still score, like for the most part. It's just those 3 games I think really skewed our perceptions. But 2 of those 3 have massive excuses to them. And I think you make a good point. Like Zappe's made this offense like I think the ceiling might be a little bit lower with him than Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones has the bigger upside, but I think he's raised the floor a little bit. I think you're less likely to see just a terrible game where they score 0 points or 6 points or whatever. It's more likely that they at least are meh. And again, meh against the Giants might be 7 points. Meh in Germany might be just 6 points, but meh against Denver, that ought to get you like 14, 17, 21, whatever points, right? And I'm like you, like some sort of 21-18-ish game that would get you to the 39. Yeah. That the model's projecting here. So it's a really low number. 34 is key. Again, make sure you get this number. When we blocked this in this afternoon, I think every book had about 34, but I don't know where the number should go. I don't know where it is now. So just make sure that 34 is relatively your key number here in the mid 30s. 33 and a half is even better. Don't pay for it. But if you can get 33 and a half for minus 115, that's a good deal. Over 34 is a good deal. 34 and a half, we'd still be playing the over. We don't like that we've lost a little bit of the value, unfortunately. Which takes us to our show finale here Monday. Again, 2 other Christmas Day games. Sideline has information on those. We'll talk about them on Discord. Might have a teaser of the day for your Christmas Day over on Dub Club. Sign up, link in the show description. But the Monday game we're going to cover here, Las Vegas and Kansas City. And Jake, I feel like my analysis, this is now 5 weeks in a row that I'm going to attempt the same teaser. It is won all 4 weeks in a row. It is fade the Chiefs and take the under in a teaser. And it is won 4 weeks in a row. And I'm going to do it yet again because why not? It could lose every game the rest of the season and I'd still be positive on this gimmick. The bottom line is this Las Vegas team, is not good enough offensively to score that many points. Even after that offensive outburst, Sideline still has them ranked 26th. They are still a bad offense. That was a wonky game. The Chargers apparently finally quit on their coach, and thus he got fired. 2 of those touchdowns were defensive. There were 3 first half own zone turnovers. Like that game was not representative of anything. Just throw that game out. Like what we do know, the Chargers quit on their coach, sure. Other than that, throw everything about that game out because when Las Vegas kept starting, like at the plus 30, like what did you, and they got 2 defensive scores, like what did you think was going to happen, right? Like that doesn't mean anything. What it does mean something is that Las Vegas defense is still solid, and the books still have not figured out that this Chiefs team is not quite as good on offense as they think, and they're better on defense than they think. Sideline says 36.6, and this is about by how much the books have been missing on the Chiefs. 41 and a half is what we're going to go under. There's 41s and 41 and a halves out there. We lock this in. 41 is your key number in the low 40s. Lock it under 41 or under 41 and a half, whichever one you got. I'm playing my teaser again, but of the 2 picks between either taking the points with Vegas or taking the under, I like the under more. Jake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the under is my favorite play here. Just because you've got a very good defense in Vegas that in Kansas City's offense is still, I think you've got them ranked correctly. It's still good. It's just a different kind of good. I feel like we say this every time. It's one that it's not explosive. It's not the Miami Dolphins or anything like that. Yeah, it's we're going to just slowly move it down, dink and dunk, and then get down there, and then they convert every time because they've got an incredible quarterback. They've got some very solid weapons, and I mean Rashid Rice really seems to have found his groove too, to be kind of that main receiver for him. But Vegas, Vegas's defense is solid, at all levels, and I think it's going to make Kansas City have a really tough time here. Uh, and no, I don't think. I think we're getting a little bit of too much value from last week's performance from whatever the Chargers did out there while Vegas had the ball. Nobody knows, but
yeah, it wasn't football. I know that much.
I mean, but all you have to do is look at the week before where they scored 0. Yeah. So I don't think either of those teams are what we're going to see. I think we're going to see something closer.
Classic example, as we always talk about. You're not as bad as you look at your worst. You're not as good as you look at your best. Perfect example is the Raiders these last 2 weeks. If you weren't a believer, there's example number 1A right there.
Yeah, like I think 20-17 feels about right for this game for whoever wins. I'm not totally sure on that, but that feels like where the final's going to end up.
Yeah, and again, just to point out, because some of you may be saying, the Chiefs at number 9, that's disrespectful to Mahomes. I mean, just points per game, the Chiefs are 11th in the NFL this year, so it's not like I'm the only one. Like it's pretty clear, but points per game on defense, number 3, and sometimes number 6. So I mean, you're talking about a defense that's better than the offense. And Las Vegas, I mean, my goodness, after you put up 63 points, Las Vegas is still 24th in points per game. And that's what the model has been 26 is like, yeah, that's after that. And I'm not really going to, again, 2 of them are defensive and you can't even, the competition, throw that out, that wonkiness of that, right? And you throw that game out and they're probably like dead last or maybe not dead last because, the Jets and the Giants still exist, but they're much further, but that defense is really good. So that was number 3, and then points per game allowed. They're number 9, and obviously points per game isn't the perfect exact metric, but at this point we have enough data that it's a reasonable indicator. Of course, we have a player-based model here that looks at current injuries, trades and things of that nature. So it's not exact going to mimic points per game, but it's you can kind of see these numbers are pretty similar. So you might be a little bit surprised, but I think the points per game kind of say, these are all in the ballpark of where even a crude metric like that would be. And when you put all that into the big jumbled machine that outputs points, you'd be looking at mid-30s here. Even if you were to have a number like 38.5, I'd still say under 38.5 has some value. Again, as we talked about with the previous one, we've lost some value if you're betting that number versus this one, but still probably would be worth a play here. This is a game that I see happening a lot like last week's game against the Patriots. And the total that we picked on that one did not win, but the teaser did. And that was one where when we gave out the teaser, we were getting it to 44.5 because 44 is the key number. And that was what we were talking about on the Discord. And I shared the screenshots of that. And the same thing here, I think 44.5, you're like, if you want to do a same game parlay on this, for those who do that, like you could tease this up, but 47.5 doesn't offer you a ton of value. You'd have to go a 7-point teaser to get the 48.5. But if you do the same game parlay, you might get slightly better odds because you really only need to buy 3. Buy Vegas up to 14.5, and then just to 44.5, and you'd actually end up with probably something that's more like plus 150, plus 170 or something like that. And I see it playing out a lot like last week, that 27-17. That's kind of like as high as I think it could go. But I'm like, I think it could land 20-17 as well and not even get that high. So it seems hard to get this into the upper 40s. And so that's, again, why the teaser, I think, makes a lot of sense here. And I'm not a big teasing total guy. Of the teasers we gave out on Dub Club, all 3 of them there were 6 sides. There wasn't a single total in them. I'm not a big total guy on teasers. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But with these Chiefs ones, it's just been money. They don't like to get up into the upper 40s and the 50s like the Chiefs teams of old. And now maybe when they play the Dolphins or someone they will, or the Cowboys, but for the most part, that's not who they are. So under 41.5, the favorite individual play, especially with that key number there. But as we've been doing, I'm still recommending that teaser. Jake, that's our recap. 8 picks, more on Dub Club, including Discord, chat access, all the metrics, all the other sports. Parting words from you before we sign off for week 16 NFL action.
Maybe I'm just more of a basketball guy, but has football always been played on Christmas, like when it lands? Because I feel like the NBA used to own Christmas, and now I'm a little sad that that's going away. I'm happy that I'm making so much money on the NFL, but I'm a little sad that it's not just NBA Christmas Day.
I think, and maybe someone in the comments can clarify, someone who knows the specifics of this, but my understanding, my thought on it is they've tried to have a Christmas Day game the last several years, if they could, other than when Christmas was on like Tuesday or Wednesday, but they've tried to put like odd game and have a Christmas game. When Christmas is on Sunday, they've tended to move all the games like to Saturday or to Monday and still keep like a game or two on Christmas. I think, a decade ago, even 5 years ago, that wasn't the case. They didn't play on Christmas at all. And now I think it's been kind of a thing. They've done more lately. They started it with adding the third Thanksgiving game was the first thing I think they did, right? They added that night game on NFL Network back in the day. And now it's, I don't know if it's NBC or Amazon Prime or who has it, but they've started to get more involved in the holidays here and these extra spots here in the last 5-ish years, I think. So, yeah, it is interesting to see 3 Christmas Day games. And in college basketball, too, college basketball used to never play over the holidays. And I remember last year there were 5 games, I think, on Christmas Day, something like that. And I'm assuming we'll have the same thing again this year. So we're going to have football and NBA and college basketball. Probably it gets a little more crazier for those of us who used to be able to enjoy a day or two off that I don't think we get anymore.
Yeah, because then you're going to get the hockey probably too. So it's just going to be all the sports going.
And then if you do soccer, right, EPL is big on Boxing Day. It's, I think every single team plays, I think, on like the 23rd and the 26th. So, all right, that's all we got for this week's edition. Again, more over on Dub Club. Sign up link right there, $10 off your first month. Lock in this year's pricing going forward forever. And the price will never jump for you if you are in by New Year's Eve. So that's your deadline for that. Jump on board if you haven't yet. If you're already there, thanks for being there. And otherwise, we will see y'all later.